Hey everyone, it's Jess here at Fat Mascara. I'm rolling solo for the next minute or two. Jen, we miss you very much this week. Listen, on Fat Mascara, we do the business desk. And if you like this segment, I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. In just a minute, I'm going to be joined by Cristina Nuñez. She's the co-founder and general partner of True Beauty Ventures. So she started this with her co-founder and the managing partner, Rich Gersten. He is a major in the industry. What is True Beauty Ventures? True Beauty Ventures is a firm that they provide capital, partnership, venture capital, I should say. I got to start using the terms correctly if I'm going to get into this conversation. Venture capital, partnership, and expertise to brands before they go big. So these are brands that are in their early stage. She'll explain what that means. And some brands that she works with, just to get you kind of like primed for the conversation: Crown Affair, Vacation, Sofie Pavitt Face, Moon Juice, the list goes on. So I didn't want to bring her on to have just like a dry businessy conversation. That is not what this is about or what I'm about. I wanted to hear like, what is the emotional journey of working with founders, and how do you decide who to give money to? How do you know what founder is how do you like decide like what clicks? Like, who do you want to work with? What is that relationship like? I had a lot of questions. They didn't all fit neatly into this hour. Honestly, I probably would love to do a part 2 with her. I think she's really interesting. I think she's very personable. I'm not surprised they're doing well. So I hope you like this conversation. I hope it's useful to you in whatever part of your life it might be. I thought that she had a lot of wisdom. Anyway, I hope you dig it. Bye. Cristina, I've been wanting to talk to you for so long.
I'm so excited.
I'm so happy it's finally happening. I'm glad you were into it. I'm glad you said yes.
This is a dream come true.
A dream?
When you asked me, I have been following Fat Mascara and you and Jen for a long time. Since you started, wasn't that like 2016, 2017, a really long time?
First of all, thank you for knowing when we started. But first, I was nervous you're going to say, wasn't that 20 years ago?
No. Well, I was already in my second beauty role. And so I was really trying to dial into so many different sources of great beauty information and hearing from experts. So that was my time to really immerse myself in the space. And so, of course, you guys popped up immediately, and I've been a fan ever since.
Well, thank you. And you know what? It is a good source of information. It is a really good source of information. And this is going to go back to you in a second, because we have great experts really sharing their secrets, their experience, and their wisdom. And you really you hold the keys to the castle in some sense, because you work with founders, you work with, we're going to talk about your background in a second, but you really hit beauty at so many different points. You're working with creative people, but you're also working with finance people. You are a finance person, but you also are really passionate about the creative process. So I think that's what makes your role so interesting. And you can see that by the brands you work with.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I love the work you guys do. So let's talk about one thing. I just wanted to start with, you're at a desk right now. Like, what is your workspace like?
It depends on the day. I work from home. So basically, sleep where I work. Miami.
Okay.
Born and raised in Miami, had a very amazing stint in New York for about 12 years, and then boomeranged back here in 2019, so pre-pandemic. So I've been back here for 5 years, but I do work from home, which has its amazing perks. But for everyone who works from home, work spills into your daily life. And luckily I have an extra room that functions as my home office, also my gym, also my mini Sephora product closet, which needs some cleaning up right now. As you can imagine, I get a lot of products sent to me, which I absolutely love, and I try everything. But it can definitely start to pile up, which is my current situation. If I could pan out to the rest of my room.
This is such a waste of precious time talking to you, but what do you do with all the extra product? Because this is just, Jen and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah. My friends get a lot of product for the holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. Sometimes I just have product. Anytime anyone comes over, I'm like, what do you need? Skincare, hair care, fragrance. I got it all. So I try to give it away as much as I can for the excess, but I really do try everything. It's really important for me as an investor, but also as a beauty lover. Obviously, not every product is made for me, but you could tell from the experience whether it's a good product and just the overall, the packaging of it, the way it gets delivered, if there's a handwritten note. I mean, some of those little details I really like to observe, and I try to use the product at least a couple times and see what I think.
Yeah. And you went into the whole 360 of it, everything from the packaging to every detail. I've been talking to people about True Beauty Ventures, and I know what it is just from being in the world, but True Beauty Ventures, like, what is it? If you have to explain to somebody in like 2 sentences, what is True Beauty Ventures?
Luckily, a lot of it is in the name. We wanted to create a fund that was exclusively dedicated to investing in beauty and wellness brands, but in particular at the early stage. You have a lot of investors investing at later stages, but very few with deep experience in beauty that were willing to write a smaller check to earlier stage beauty startups. And when we started this in 2020, there really wasn't that much of a focus on the beauty industry. And so it was a massive white space when we launched. And I do think the name is pretty appropriate.
That's crazy because beauty is so big.
Beauty is so
People
big.
are giving so much money to beauty, but there weren't people who were specialists, like finance people who were specialists in beauty?
There weren't specialists, that's for sure. A lot of consumer funds that had a beauty vertical and liked beauty because beauty is an amazing category and there's been a ton of success investing in beauty, but really nobody with the specific focus on that sector, and then also in early stage brands.
And what is early? I'm going to stop you a lot, not because I'm being annoying, but because I think a lot of people, you're using words like early stage. What does that mean? That feels very finance vernacular. What is early stage?
Basically, early stage, I equate it to a startup that perhaps you've never raised money outside of maybe your own or friends and family, and you've never really taken on a true investor. But it could also mean a brand who has maybe taken some money, but hasn't really scaled yet. They're still doing a few million in revenue or even less, and they are looking for a partner to help them really hit an inflection point for growth and to scale at a much rapid pace. But it's really hard to define. And quite frankly, an early stage brand could be a pre-revenue startup, meaning I'm a founder, I have a great idea, I haven't launched it yet, but I've got a technology or I've got a proprietary ingredient or amazing delivery system and packaging, whatever the uniqueness factor is, it's just an idea and they're looking for an investor to come in and help them launch it. That is very early stage.
Would you work with a brand like that?
We have done it a couple times, but it's not our core focus. It's quite risky.
I was about to say, because that brand hasn't made a dime yet.
Hasn't made a dime yet. So what does that mean? That means you're taking a bet on a person and their credibility and their experience and the uniqueness of their idea and maybe the network that they have. Maybe there's a prototype that you can look at, but oftentimes there's not. So it's really, really risky. We typically don't invest at that stage. And in the rare exceptions that we have, it's been, as an example, Callie Ray, which was founded by Wendy Zomner, the founder of Urban Decay. And she built an amazing business and sold it successfully to L'Oreal. So she's a second-time beauty founder. She knows what's up. She knows what she's doing.
Less
and
of
so
a
you're
risk.
taking less of a risk on a person like that, first and foremost. And then also when Callie Ray launched, they launched with the amazing partnership of Sephora. So they launched in all doors, North America. That's also very rare. You don't typically find that combination, but obviously that was incredibly enticing for us to take the bet of coming in at the pre-revenue stage. But for the most part, We like to see some traction, some revenue, some repeat purchase behavior, just to confirm that there's proof of concept, that there's a product market fit. In other words, the product that a brand has launched really is targeted to a consumer that actually wants this product and that is repurchasing the product. And so that's the early stage that we're looking for. And typically that means maybe a couple million in revenue. And maybe they're about to launch a retailer, but they haven't yet. They're still exclusively DTC. So that's kind of the early stage that we're targeting. But you're right, it's an arbitrary term. So it can be interpreted to mean different things by different people.
Exactly. Yeah. Early stage to somebody listening could mean like, well, I'm early stage, I have a deck. Or early stage could be when somebody hears, oh, they're making a couple of million, to somebody that could mean they've hit it big time. So it's interesting that early stage is a couple of $1 million, I'm sure, to some people.
To some people, that's a massive milestone. I think a point where if you can achieve that in this incredibly competitive market, you should be really proud, because that does show that you have something here beyond just an idea, beyond just a single product. You actually have perhaps, a community of people that wants your product and is repurchasing and engaged with you. So that's a really great milestone to achieve.
Give us an example of like a few brands that really represent what a true Beauty Ventures classic brand is, like an exemplary brand.
Yeah, well, we've invested in quite a few. We have two funds. We raised our first fund in 2020 and our second fund we just closed this summer. And so we have an incredible portfolio of brands. I think we're up to 18 now, which is a lot. Amazing. And all of them obviously met our investment criteria when we invested, and when we love every single one of them. I think one that is very near and dear to my heart, because we were on the journey with them from a very early stage for them, is Crown Affair. And we invested in Crown a few times. So we've been strong supporters of the brand. And I think they're exemplary of the kind of beauty business that we're looking at for a couple of reasons. One is the strength of their brand and their brand DNA, the strength of their founder. Diana is an amazing representation of the brand and such a great storyteller, and really connects with the community, in particular, women of all ages who have all different types of hair concerns that just want to relate to someone one-to-one who's a regular woman, not a stylist, not a beauty professional, but just a regular person. And she's amazing connecting with community. Also, they have an incredible partnership with Sephora. When we first invested, they had just launched online and with a very select number of doors. And for us, finding a key anchor retail partner like Sephora or Ulta is really critical. It's really critical because beauty, as everyone knows, is a very omni-channel category that scales in a very omni-channel way. And people want to go in store to touch, feel, experience product, discover, test, learn. And so having an anchor retail partner is really important to us. So Crown Affair had that partner, and our hope with our capital was to accelerate their growth and to make them scale faster, which they've done in an amazing way. I talked a little bit about community, but really in today's world, community and having the right content to engage people is everything. In addition to having good product that people come back and purchase, you have to take advantage of cultivating a community that then is your ambassador out in the world. And I think Crown Affair has done that. I spot a Crown Affair girl all the time. When people hear about True Beauty, they mention Crown Affair as a brand that they love. And so I can tell that community is really strong. And they've got an amazing team, and we've been helping them grow the business over the last few years. And it's so rewarding to see that happen. And hair care, as you know, especially prestige hair care, is doing really well. So they've got some good tailwind. So that's a great example of one that we started off with when they were, much smaller, and we, have continued to support and invest them along the way. And I'm very proud to see how that brand has flourished. I mentioned Callie Ray on the makeup side. We're huge fans of makeup, and skincare also is a big part of our portfolio. And when we first met the founders of Do Skin, they were DTC only. They didn't have a retailer. And so we were kind of hesitant to and potentially invest for all the reasons that I said. It's competitive as heck to get into a retailer these days, and you're fighting tooth and nail to get on shelf. And then once you're on shelf, you really have to fight to stay on shelf and meet the productivity demands of your retailer. And so when we met the Do founders and we saw the business, they had no opportunities on the table to expand into retail. So we took a massive bet on them as founders, the product, which everyone loved, but it was a very limited assortment, maybe 2 or 3 products when we invested.
Is a limited assortment like a liability in your mind?
It's not a liability, but going back to what I mentioned around proof of concept, is this a one-hit wonder? Is this, eye mask and a serum? Have you actually built a brand yet when you have such a limited assortment and you're not sure if people are coming in for one product and then leaving and not coming back to purchase, but there's nothing else to purchase, so you can't actually
like what's the future of the brand?
What the future of the brand is, exactly. And also, can they develop product and have great, strong launches? If they've only launched 2 things, you don't actually know if they're really good at product development.
Right.
Truly yet. So we took a big bet though when we observed the community that the brand built and how much people just loved Do.
What do you think the strength is with Do?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of, obviously it's really great product. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's really great product at a incredible price point for when you think about the way that the industry is moving, and you're seeing clinical skincare with great results, but at price points that are harder to achieve for most people. I think they're very transparent on their price point and how they don't try to pass on costs to the consumer. How, hey, these are our cost of goods.
Like an Everlane sort of model.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is our cost of goods. Here's what it costs us to market it. And then this is why it costs X. So I think consumers really like that. I think the content that they put out is incredibly engaging. I think Charlotte in particular has done an amazing job really kind of creating a community and talking about not just Do, of course, but just skincare in general and having a really strong point of view. Some people really love it and agree with her, and some people don't, and that's okay. But she has a really strong point of view. Exactly. So we love that. And then luckily, we were able to get them into Sephora a year later after investing. But that was a big bet that we took on the founders and a limited assortment, but an amazingly engaged community that we knew with the right team, the right capital, the right advisors and investors around them to get them to where they are now. And now they're expanded into all doors and getting additional space. It's really amazing to see. And then I think at this point, we've invested in almost every category. I would say we've got skincare, makeup, hair care, fragrance, personal care. We haven't done anything in nail. There's a few select categories, but we really have tried to create a diversified portfolio across all of the beauty categories that we're looking at. SPF is a big one. I didn't mention vacation, but we invested in that one out of our first fund, and it's unbelievable to see what an SPF brand has been able to achieve in terms of becoming such a relevant cultural brand that people love to, they love getting their text messages, they love getting their emails and seeing them on social media.
They've really become like an entertainment brand as much as they are a beauty brand.
100%.
I wanted to ask you, you started out in finance, but then you've pivoted to beauty. What is it about the beauty industry that really lured you?
I have to say, I'll say a couple things. One, I have always been a beauty person. I grew up being the girl that did their hair in middle school and put on makeup, maybe not in middle school, but a little bit later, and washed their face in college. Like, who actually did that? That was me. So I was into it personally, but I never really thought of it as a career until much later. I ended up going the finance route, as you said, going into investment banking.
Because you didn't think
college.
That there were careers, or because it just didn't occur to you?
I didn't think you could marry what you were personally passionate about with something that could actually create a career and income and
why?
All of that. I think because I grew up My parents are, immigrants. My family, we're Cuban. I grew up in Miami. And I think I was just always gunning for that, what's the most prestigious, like highest paying job I could get so that I could just continue to climb and make a success of myself. And so I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Then I thought I was going to be a lobbyist. I mean, I was thinking all these things. Finance popped up for me in probably around junior year of college because the investment banks would come and recruit at universities. And at that point in time, that was one of the hardest jobs to get and one of the highest paying. And for me, someone with student debt.
Did you want to do finance?
No, not initially. I really didn't. I thought I was going to go into more of a legal career. And I took a summer internship at UBS in their investment banking group covering consumer and retail. And it was really freaking hard.
It sounds interesting, but hard.
But it was really interesting and it challenged me tremendously. And not coming from a school that had a finance degree, I was a public policy major. For me, I had to learn everything. So I was working extra hard to learn. And so I didn't mind the work. I really enjoyed it and I loved consumer. So I found myself in the right spot in finance. And then I went into private equity after. And in private equity, you work for, the fund I worked for was called L. Catterton. And I was an investor at that point. I was still in consumer and retail, but I was evaluating brands and identifying if they were the right fit for my fund to invest in. And so I was going and meeting one-on-one with amazing brands and founders and doing diligence and getting deals done. And that was really exciting.
Okay, yeah. So now you were starting to connect the dots there. So
I was starting to connect
anymore,
the dots
right?
that I really enjoyed being in consumer and I really actually enjoyed being an investor. And I left Catterton and I ended up working at a fund called Tangram Capital. I had met my co-founder, Rich Gersten, who you know.
Yeah.
I met him at Catterton and then I went to work for him at Tangram Capital. And when we worked together there, he was the beauty guy. He was covering all the beauty deals and he was doing amazing job building this reputation as kind of the preeminent beauty investor. And I found myself in an opportunity to work for one of our fund's portfolio companies called Laura Geller. And Rich was the lead partner on Laura Geller. I went and worked for Alana Drell-Zeifer, who was the CEO at Laura Geller, who then became the CEO of Revive. And she just sold her company. So I'm so proud of her. She's my mentor and an amazing person. And all of a sudden, I was in a position where, hey, I'm in a beauty brand looking at a category that I love, and also I can make money doing that too. And it was really cool to see what the beauty industry was like from the other side of the table, right? Being on one side, you only get one perspective. Being on the other side, you can actually see what it takes to execute and to actually build a beauty business. So one, I had to learn what it was like to operate and just to be in a company. And two, I had to learn everything about beauty. And I ended up spending 3 years at Laura Geller. I called it my executive beauty MBA. I learned so much. I spent a lot of time in operations and on the back end, which by the way, that's where you really learn how the sausage is made. So I did that. And before you knew it, I was hooked. And then I went on to my next beauty brand.
What do you think people, when you say, okay, you think that's where you learn the sausage is made. What do you think people don't know? Like, what do you feel like is like kind of a little like, I don't say dirty secret, but what do you think people don't really appreciate?
I will say,
dirty secret sounds negative. It's more
No. I would say that as when I was in an investor seat, what I didn't appreciate was how easy it was for me to pontificate on, you need to grow sales. You should launch more product. You should just open more distribution. You should do this. You should do that. Not realizing that even in the smallest company, it still takes a huge effort to launch a product, to get into a new retailer and support them. These are actions that take years to actually implement. If you're going to launch a product right with lead times and the right development, it could take 2 years. It could take less, of course, but if it could take 2, it could take even more. And so understanding that these decisions can be made at the top level, but then when you actually have to go and execute them, it takes a lot of collaboration, it takes communication and cross-functional work across all of these teams to get products from concept to market. I didn't appreciate any of that.
Like it's easy to come up with an idea, to actually execute it and do it well.
Yeah. And that's what I'm now, as back in an investor role, I'm trying to take that understanding, take that perspective and say, I'm not the one doing the work. There's an entire team of people that are doing the work. And I also have to understand how incredibly difficult it can be and how much time it can take and how much effort. And I have to be patient and understand that. And so when I suggest things, I need to put myself back in that seat for a minute and see both sides of it. And I think that's incredibly valuable. It also gives me a ton of empathy. It is hard to be a beauty founder. It is 24/7 and never really turns off. And I feel it as a founder of a fund. I'm not building a beauty brand, but I'm still building a team, a company, a brand myself. And it's really all consuming. It's very worth it, but it's a lot of work. So I really have a ton of empathy and respect for founders and what they do every day. When I was in one of my private equity roles, when I was at Tengram, Rich took me to my first ever CEW award luncheon. And actually Laura Geller was being acknowledged for an Achiever Award. And at that point, I wasn't in beauty yet. I was on the finance side. And I remember walking into that room and looking around and seeing an entire ballroom of women. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Who are these women? Who are these people? And then seeing people go up on stage and present for all of the achievers. And these are amazing. These are executives who climb to the highest ranks, women, all women.
I'm cracking up. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the room I need to be in. I don't know how it's going to happen.
Well, what was your other life like? Like what is, when you went back to the office?
My other life was the opposite of that. I mean, in all of my finance jobs, investment banking, and in the 2 private equity roles I had, there were maybe in banking, there was 1 female MD in my team.
Managing director?
Managing director. Yes. She might have been. She was incredible. She could have been. Who knows? And in my 2 private equity roles, there was only 1 female partner.
And what
those
were they
my
like?
Examples. Those are my leadership examples.
And were they like, just when I say were they like, it's kind of you can't you're going to characterize them, tell everyone their life story, but like, what was there a camaraderie between all of you because you were the only girls, women?
It wasn't that kind of girls. It wasn't, maybe it was just the time. I mean, this is 2007 to I
was like, it wasn't 1981.
I know. But like, it's a lot's changed in the last 10 years, I think.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah. But, I think they had a pretty rough shell. I think that's how they got to where they were. And I wouldn't say they were specifically trying to reach out to the young women in their teams and trying to be mentors necessarily. I think they were so focused on keeping pace and staying where they are and continuing to push that it might have been a little bit hard for them to. So the
CEW Awards was like you went to Disney World.
I couldn't believe it. And I told Rich this story not that long ago, and he's like, how have you never told me the story? This is amazing. And
That's
I'm like,
funny.
It dawned on me the other day that I had that experience, and I just had no idea I would end up back in that room the next time actually at a beauty company. And then more recently back in an investor seat, but investing just in this sector that I love and with an 80% female team.
I think maybe I am a bit Pollyanna about like a lot of things. And I do think that is true about myself. But I think there's always exceptions to the rule. There's always somebody who is, knives out. But I think in the beauty world, I do think there's like a sorority in the nicest term of people who they like working together. They support each other. Like they have each other's back. I mean, even I don't know, maybe somebody's listening to this being like, what the hell are you talking about?
Even if you're competitive. I've heard
that's what I mean.
So many founders, they're founder friends. And
they're on group chats, they're on group emails.
You could be on the same, actually, this perfect example. At True Beauty, in our portfolio, we have 3 brands that are on a clean beauty makeup end cap. And the first 3 shelves are 3 different TBV brands. And they collaborate. They work together on giveaways. They try to do events. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
And again, they're technically competing, even though each of them is positioned a little bit differently. It's Pally Ray, Iris&Romeo, and Ami Collet, very different positioning, targeting a different demographic, but they work together and they collaborate because, you know what, everybody's in this together.
Exactly.
Everybody's trying to succeed. And honestly, the beauty industry is so big that small brands aren't taking share from each other. They're taking share from the bigger conglomerates, which they've done a phenomenal job of, by the way. But it's less about competition with each other necessarily and really chipping away at that bigger market share of the bigger brands. So I love it. I do think there's a lot of competition, but I think that the collaboration is amazing to see. And especially amongst female founders, there's so many amazing female founders in this category, and we all have to stick together and support each other. So yeah, that was one of the things that I didn't appreciate either when I started investing earlier stage, because I think that's where you really see it. The indie brands, all collaborate much more than obviously the large ones don't.
I think that, yeah, that's probably not going to change for a long time, but it's really beautiful to see. What is a beauty brand that you wish you could have invested in? Let's play Fantasyland. A beauty brand that you wish you could have invested in, but it no longer exists. Or it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's like they're with a conglomerate or something.
Okay. I think this would qualify because it's the first thing that popped into my head. Sephora.
Ah.
I wish I could have invested in Sephora. Obviously not possible. But what better place to see all of the incredible growth and all of the brands that come through those doors, but also what an amazing catalyst for the beauty industry and what it's done for indie beauty in particular. So that would be very cool if I could have invested in Sephora. Also would have made my job a lot easier. I don't know if I would have been allowed to keep that
Yeah,
stake.
It feels a little bit like, a little muddy, but sure, yeah.
But yeah, I think that to me is just when I think beauty, it's really hard not to think.
Yeah. Of course.
Not to think of Sephora.
Okay, tell me about a brand that you wanted to invest in, but the timing just wasn't right.
So I don't want to mention any names because the timing could be right one day.
Okay, can you tell us about the story?
So there's been a few times when we have really loved a brand and a founder and wanted to invest, and it hasn't gone our way. And it's important when that happens. It sucks, but you learn from it, and it's important and humbling, and it happens, and you just have to figure out what you could have done better or, try harder the next time. But the two instances where this typically happens is one when a founder thinks they want to raise money and then they realized, oh shoot, like I don't actually know if I want to get married. It's almost like you get to the altar, and we pretty much got to the altar with a brand, somebody she's amazing, and we've been following her for a long time, and we've had a great relationship. And, we shook hands and had a term sheet signed and everything. And I think the founder realized, I've been running this business on my own for so long. I don't know if I want a partner that I have to, not just the sharing information, but that I have to make decisions with. And so they quickly realized that, and it was devastating to us. But you know what? I'd rather them have realized it now than to have gone through with the marriage and then woken up the next day being like, what have I done? That one stung, but I think it happened for the right reasons. And I hope that she'll be ready one day to take investment, and we would love to be there when the time is right. But I tell founders all the time, really think through this decision, because it's not something you could unwind. And you really want to know who that person, those people that you're partnering with, who they are and how they operate, how they think, and if you're ready to take them on.
About how long does that sort of courting process, if you're likening it to a marriage, can you just tell me a little bit more about that? How long does the dating process go on? And is it a series of dinners? Is it like Zooms? Like, tell me a little bit more.
You're asking a girl who, it took me 10 years to get married. By the way, we are happily married 3 years now, but it took us a long time. And I think you just want to make sure not only that you're ready, that this is the right person, but also that it's the right time in your life. In my case, I was doing so many other things and immersing myself in my career and all these other things, and it just wasn't the right time in my life. And for founders, I think they have to do a lot of introspection. And in my opinion, I would date an investor for at least a year. We spend that much time getting to know founders before we invest. And if we get, for example, if we get an email from a founder that we just met and they're running a process and they want us to invest and they want term sheets in the next, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, that's an easy no for us. We're not going to do that. We don't know each other yet. So I would say a year probably. If you live near that investor and you have multiple touch points, maybe you can condense that because you see them often and you see them at events and you have breakfast and lunch and dinner and whatever. But I do think it takes some time. And also you just have to know what you're getting into and know that there's rights and governance that investor is going to have, and you're no longer the one making unilateral decisions for your business. I think the other case where we wanted to invest and it wasn't the right time, I think for us, it's because we missed it. We did not get in early with the founder and we did not develop a relationship with them like we normally would, but we fell in love right away. And that founder decided, I'm going to go with somebody who has been courting me and dating me for a lot longer. And that was probably the right decision. At the end of the day, she made it based on her gut around her relationship. And I think founders should do more of that. Even if it means that one time we got rejected, that really hurt, I think that's the right call. And so I encourage more of that. I think investors get a lot of FOMO and they just want to jump on deals because other investors are on it and they don't want to miss a trend. And I just think that's silly.
If your best friend wanted to start a beauty brand, would you let them?
Oh my gosh. I would probably batter them with a ton of questions and really try to hammer home how difficult it is to launch I should say it's not that difficult to launch a beauty brand, to be honest, right? You do need some money to be able to do a minimum order run of a product. Obviously, you have to have an idea. You can put some nice packaging together, branding, put up a website. It actually doesn't require that much capital to launch. And now with social media, I mean, you can actually launch something pretty quickly. It requires a lot of effort and money and time to scale a brand. It's become so hard. So I'm not worried about my friend successfully launching a brand. I'm worried about her or him actually being able to scale and be successful. And so I'd want to test and stress test their idea, their product, their differentiation, their why. Why are they launching this truly? The white space that they're going after, but is it a white space that's actually commercializable and can you actually scale with that white space? So I'd hammer that with them. And after all of that, if they still want to do it, of course, I would support anyone's passion, but I would want them to go into it eyes wide open. And I don't think enough founders have someone be a truth teller like that to them from the very beginning. And I think it's important that you kind of just know what mistakes other people have made and what it's going to actually require for you to be successful. And then I'd ask my friend, do they have the tenacity and do they have the stamina to build this over a long period of time? Everyone talks about the overnight successes. And the reality is there really aren't overnight successes.
It's funny you mentioned like the overnight successes because the people who I think about who are super successful, the word tenacity comes up a lot in my mind, kind of like doggedness. And there's a through line throughout them. And I'm thinking about this one moment that kind of like, well, the people who you look at like this, Bobby Brown, tenacity, Jamie Kern-Lima, tenacity, Wendy Zomnier, tenacity. I mean, I'm not going to go Emily Weiss, Jesus Christ. Okay, Tenacity. None of these people who like kind of made a doodle and then had a $1 billion brand. I see a commonality. Do you see a commonality with the folks who are in your portfolio?
I think there is definitely tenacity, but there's also, and there's ambition.
Yeah.
But I also think there's a self-awareness as well. And there's some realism baked in, because what I think can trip people up is they just focus on, I'm going to do this no matter what anyone says and nothing's going to knock me down. And that's great. But at the end of the day, you also need to have an awareness for your own superpowers, your own strengths, your own weaknesses, how far you can take something before you maybe need to raise your hand and say, okay, I'm going to need some additional help and resources. Like people who just know they can do something, but also have the awareness to know when to ask for help, communicate with their teams, their advisors, their investors, like bring people in to help. You're never building something alone. I mean, it does truly take an entire village of people around you to build a beauty brand. So I think there is a combination of that strong ambition, that tenacity, but also humility and acceptance of the things that you can't do alone.
So you're saying it takes a village, not just this wonderkin kind of like this person's a genius and they've done it all on their own back.
Exactly. And when a brand is small, the founder does do it all. You wear so many hats because you're small and you don't have a ton of capital and you have to. That's critical at the early stages. But as the brand starts to scale, I think the best founders are able to really identify their superpowers and what they're good at and able to augment around them with a team and people in areas that complement their skill sets so that they could do what they're passionate about, what they're best at, but also in a way that's going to benefit the company the most. And that realization, I think, is an important one. And I think, again, it's tough out there. And I think just the willingness to realize that Rome wasn't built in a day and it's truly brick by brick. And these overnight successes actually took 10, 15 years to build. And don't get down when you see others achieving milestones and you're not. You can't compare yourself to other brands. There's tailwinds in categories. There's consumer demand shifts. Like there's reasons why maybe some brands get that extra bump, but to like not let that kind of get you down and to focus on ultimately your mission and, and getting the brand to whatever milestone you set for yourself. And I think like founders that I find to be the most successful have their strong point of view on their brand. To me, and I talked about this recently on a panel, it's like founders can have 5 major strengths. They can be the brand builder. They're the brand DNA. They're the reason the brand exists and the why it started and dictate that brand. They could be a business builder. They know how to manage a P&L. They're commercially strong business sense. They could be a team leader. They know how to lead people and motivate them and can build great talent. And they can be a demand generator in terms of going out, engaging with the community, being the brand ambassador and being the one who kind of, riles everybody up. And for me, the 5th is they can be an amazing partner, because as an investor, I'm looking for that partner who is solid, who is like, we're fully aligned and in lockstep. And I find that founders can't be all 5.
My question was like, wait, I'm like, did I miss the top? Like, I hope that this person isn't all 5, because the P&L person and the vision person and the one who's out in the Sephora, like
in the Sephora or on social media,
the crowd.
Yep. No, and they can't be all 5. And so what I have to do as an investor is identify those strengths, and hopefully the brand founder is self-aware and knows as well their strength, and sit back and say, I'm not going to do these other 3 things. I'm going to bring in really capable people to do that.
In the beginning stages, like Godspeed, they are all 5 things. I know. You have
to be. And that's where there's not enough hours and days in the week.
Oh my God. And that, yeah, there's not enough hours and days, and you just have to like You have to pray. You have to pray that.
And there's a little bit of luck, by the way.
Yeah, you do some basic math. And I know, did you see I was asking all those like finance questions? Because I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this woman.
Look, at the end of the day, if you're a beauty founder, if you're an entrepreneur, just period, just have a North Star. Know very clearly what you're doing, why, trust your gut. Hopefully you get a little bit of luck as well along the way, and pick your partners wisely. Those would be kind of my key takeaways. And that could definitely applies to beauty, but it can apply to any entrepreneur.
That's really good advice. You've given us so much great insight, so much great advice, and free people.
Free 99.
Free 99. There's not much out there that's free these days. Well, that was free.
Jess, you've been giving us free advice for a long time too. So thank you.
Yeah. Christina, how do we figure that out? Let's fix this.
Proof of concept. We got to go back to the drawing board. We got to create a viable business model.
No, but seriously, this was great. I think you've given so much real advice for anyone, even beyond beauty, who is an entrepreneur and who is thinking about really diving in, or who is actually in the beauty business right now. I loved your anecdotes. This was a goodie. But I'm not letting you go without the Quickie Fat Mascara 5. Bum, bum, bum. All right. What was the first beauty product you fell in love with? Your gateway beauty product?
It either was Christian Dior Show.
Okay.
Or the Bobbi Brown Shimmer Brick.
Oh, that is, why doesn't it get mentioned enough?
It might be the Bobbi Brown Shimmer Brick, because I cracked that thing so many times. And thank goodness Sephora allowed me to bring it back each time.
That was very soft. Very soft.
Very soft. But you could use it for so much. I loved it.
You know, that was a true, remember I said lightning round and then I dragged this out so long. That was a really innovative product, and that there were a lot of dupes before the word dupe was kicked around. Okay. What is your most indulgent snack? What do you love?
Oh, indulgent snack. True Fruit. I don't know if people know what True Fruit is.
What is True Fruit?
It is the most amazing thing. I don't know where they sell it in New York. They have it
a Miami
Publix. Thing? No, I think they have them in other grocery stores, but it's basically frozen fruit, but covered in chocolate. But it's actually not bad for you. Like, you can have a fair number of them, as I do, and it's like not that bad. But they have blueberry, raspberry, strawberry, banana, and all covered in chocolate in the frozen aisle.
That sounds really absolutely fabulous. Okay.
It's really good. Once you open them, you can't stop.
I don't know if it's like too personal. I just added this today. Like, what was your last text note in your thingy, in your iPhone?
That I sent to someone, or that I
No, that you like jot down your notes app.
Oh my God.
If it's like really bad, like you don't.
Let's see. No. Oh my God. Oh, this is so good.
Because I just write down like random things.
Okay. Honestly, a lot of stuff is my taxes.
Okay. Well, you don't need to share that.
And then my 40th birthday planning that we went to Mallorca. What else?
Maybe this isn't a good question. I'm just trying something new.
I wish I had a photo of my passport. Oh, you know what I do use my notes for? I just jot down really great quotes that I hear.
Okay. That's the really kind of good quotes. Stuff.
So okay. I probably have like 10. This is one of the first ones.
Give us one.
Work hard on the things that come easy. That's by James Clear from Atomic Habits. So basically, capitalize on the fact that like you're talented in certain things, and the things that come easy to you, actually work hard at those and make them, a strong skill set of yours, versus like trying to, I don't know, be really good at something that you're never going to be an Olympic swimmer. So like,
I get it.
Maybe you shouldn't keep trying to swim every day to achieve Olympic status, but you're really good at basketball and you should do more of that. That's how I interpret it.
I like that. How was the Atomic Habits book? People
It was good.
It was
good. Yeah, it was really good. I don't read. I just don't have time. I read for my work, for all like the beauty stuff. But personally, I don't have the time. So I'm constantly just listening to books on Audible. So that was one of the more recent ones that I listened to. So that was really good.
Okay, next one is favorite place in Miami. If we're going to Miami, what should we visit? Where should we eat? Or like place to see, shop, visit, anything?
I would say, you got to go to the beach. So
of course, yeah, that was a no-brainer.
Impossible not to go to the beach. But I think there's a lot of little hidden gems in Miami and restaurants that are kind of just like off the beaten path that are incredible that people don't know about. I would say I don't actually go to any of the big fancy ones. I like to go to the ones like the neighborhood ones. There's a restaurant I live in a town called Miami Shores, and there's a restaurant that in the daytime is like just a cafe, and at nighttime they turn it into it's a Michelin star restaurant, and they convert it into this restaurant at night. So it's a little hole in the wall place, around me, and those are the places that I like. It's called Tinta y Café, that turns into Entre Nos.
Okay.
It's great.
Wow, that's a good insider tip. And then last thing, it's 12 noon on a Saturday. What are you doing?
Oh, hopefully I have taken a Pilates class, gone to Trader Joe's, cooked breakfast, and am probably sitting on the couch enjoying a coffee, relaxing before whatever else happens in the day. Pretty basic. I'm kind of a basic bee when it comes to that stuff. Like Pilates, Trader Joe's, it's not like anything crazy. But I do think Saturdays are my day to kind of just like chill for a minute before, because Sundays I end up working. I end up catching up on work. So Saturdays, like that morning and early afternoon of just like quiet is amazing for me.
Sounds peaceful.
And my dog and my husband.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cristina. This was so great.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the show. It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Razor One product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening.